Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to another MACS live chat. My name is Steve Schaeber, and I'm the manager of service training for MACS Worldwide, the Mobile Air Conditioning Society. Joining me today is Dave Hobbs, senior field trainer and curriculum developer with Delphi Technologies in Kokomo, Indiana. Dave has been an active member of MACS for more than 20 years and is a frequent contributor to Action Magazine and MACS service reports, writing many of our issues each year. He's also one of the favorite trainers for attendees to see at the annual MACS training event and trade show. Dave, welcome.
Thank you, Steve. I really appreciate you letting me join you today. What are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about the chaos that's going on for the average trainer.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I was thinking. You know, we both do traveling training for a living, and now we're working from home. So is that an oxymoron or an opportunity?
Yeah. Well, to tell you the truth, I've been working from home forever. I used to work in the plant in Kokomo, Indiana as a hotline advisor. And then I did internal training in the plant, and we had engineers come in, or they sent me places. They even sent me to the place where this virus originated.
Really?
So I've been there, and if there's any place that needed electric vehicles, it's Suzhou and Shanghai and Wuhan. They have air pollution problems really bad, and they were starting to buy electric vehicles for a while, and they kind of stopped on it because kind of like the Chevy Volt, after a while, you used to get those, $4,000 or $10,000 rebates from the government, and they quit doing that, and we quit doing that. So people are back to buying the gas guzzlers again, especially with gas is as cheap as it is. So there's all kinds of weird things going on. I actually filled up in a little town not far from Kokomo, Indiana. It's an hour north of Indianapolis, at a little gas station in Peru, Indiana. And Steve, it cost me $15 to fill up 12 gallons. It was $1.17 a gallon. I even took a picture of the sign. $1.
Wow.
When was the last time you saw $1.17 a gallon?
Man, well, I'll tell you this. I mean, gas here in Pennsylvania, the cheapest that I've seen is $1.89.
Oh, really?
We have a little higher, we're in the higher end of the state gas taxes. But the cheapest I ever saw, and this is going back a while, in the late 90s over in New Jersey, one time I paid 88 cents a gallon for gas.
Oh my gosh. And
Yeah.
in New Jersey, they pump it for you.
Yeah, and I didn't even have to pump the gas for 88 cents a gallon.
But yeah, I've been working from home, but I'm not home that much until this happened. I was on the road mostly, so when I'm home, I'll just work from my home office, which is where I can broadcast webinars from. And with the magic of Zoom, which we're using today to record this, you can put up a little green curtain behind you, like I have right here. You can maybe hear that, but that's not really Connie and Dick's garage.
Yeah, you're not really
in
tapping
Southern
on the
California
shop.
with Scott Brown, the guy that created ITN and now Diagnostic Network. That's actually a picture he let me use of his very clean garage. I told Scott, I said, I needed somebody I knew I could ask permission to use a picture of their garage from their shop website that had a clean garage and nobody standing in the picture. And it was the one I found. And he got me back on Facebook last night and said, permission granted. So I love in the industry, we're kind of a close-knit bunch of folks. So my hat's off to Scott for that. And all of the instructors have really been pulling together very nicely. And some of our parts customers like WorldPack and getting ready to do something for Merle's Auto Parts in Arizona coming up. And I'm really looking forward to it, doing a hybrid webinar. I'm not sure how I'm going to be able to do the hands-on part of it, but I got a lot of pictures. For instructors, I just want to encourage you. If you're a community college instructor, thank you for working from home. You're preparing not just young, but even people my age that are changing their careers, and we'll get through this. But I especially want to encourage anybody who's watching this that's wrenching. You are not getting the recognition you deserve. I know even the grocery store people who, stock things on the shelves, they used to, nobody really cared about them that much, maybe their family, but it's like, yeah, not a very glamorous job. Now they're like our heroes. They're like the police and the fire department, and God bless our doctors and nurses through all this. But the people who are out there getting in these cars, and I want to talk about working on dirty cars. It's kind of even more important than ever to be careful, kind of like flood cars and things we've talked about in the MACS service reports. But you work on some filthy cars, And people, you don't know if they come into your shop, if they're sick, and they need reassurance from us that we're not sick. And so you are first responders, because you got to keep us, the people who just want to get to the grocery, or especially those doctors and nurses and cops and firefighters getting into their jobs, you got to keep their cars rolling. So my hat's
Right.
off to you. God bless you for doing that. I hope maybe get some encouragement, if nothing else, out of Steve and I just chit-chatting today. For the VOTEC instructors working from home, I just did a webinar for my local community college. I always like to help them out. And the guy, Jim Bonham, the department chair, technology chair at Ivy Tech uh, Community College in Kokomo, Indiana, I said, hey, I'll do a Zoom webinar with you. We'll do 3 hours on engine management. So we talked about continuous, non-continuous monitors, different things. And I want to pass along to guys like that, like Jim, and people out there, my counterparts. I mean, it's amazing, like Bosch and Delphi, we compete in the aftermarket, we compete on the OE market, but at the instructor level, Steve, you know this, you have us all out to your conference, the MACS conference. When it comes to instructors, we're like buddies, we help each other. There's not really a competition there. It's just family. So I want to
Right. We're
pass
all
along
working
some
together.
tips. Yes. What I did here recently, I just put this green curtain up. With Zoom, it allows you to do what's called a green screen. So you don't need anything really fancy, just a green piece of material, even green, that hard cardboard stuff that you can get in a bright green color. Put that behind you in your wall, and then you click on the green screen option within the Zoom app, and then allows you to put a virtual background. So I have this picture of a repair shop, gives a little bit more authenticity. Yeah, I mean, people are giving us a lot of slack over, photo bombs. I mean, even saw this on national news. Somebody's dog, hopped up on the couch behind them, and they were talking on national news, and they made a little cute comment about it. Hey, you got photo bombed, but it can be distracting. So the more professional you make it look, the better. But it's not like we're getting extra money right now. And Lord knows we can't get to the stores, some of the stores we want to get to, because they're closed. So I went to my local discount stores that are, have the grocery store built into them, one of those that sells everything. And I bought for $50 3 of these little clamp lights. They're like bullet shaped, just like you can put them on the end of a bedstand or something. And I watched a webinar. I just Googled how to light a webinar, because I know doing videos for over 20 years, lighting is really important. So this guy on the YouTube, he looked very professional. You know how YouTube can be, Steve.
Yep.
Hey, put this 150 R152, this dust off in your AC system. It'll be cold. Yeah, till it catches fire. But this YouTube guy was a professional. He did a lot of webinars, and in like 10 minutes, he told me what lights to get. Simple little $10 a piece. I bought 3 of them, and which light bulbs and what temperature, what kind of light bulbs. And I put them in the exact spacing on my desk in my office in front of me, and then one behind me. And it's called a 3-point lighting system. And let me tell you, fellow instructors, it made all the difference in the world. Now I'm working a little different location today, so I look a little red. Okay, it's not because I've been out in the sun, but it's not my normal. My normal office lighting is actually better than this. So when
Wow.
you get good lighting, you got a green screen, you got something like Zoom, not all these programs do allow you to do, without third-party software, a virtual background. But that's how I was able to do what I did today. I actually did a webinar on 3-phase fuel pumps. By the way, thanks for answering my email.
Oh, right.
3-phase blower motors, you are right. I went to the Four Seasons website. They've been making them, but the difference is with the fuel pumps, most of them, the 3-phase of wiring is
Right.
external. In other words, you got a remote
Oh,
module, then you got the pump and the tank, and so you got wires you may have to diagnose between the 2 places, the 3 phases. Just like 3-phase electric motor generators, you got the 3 cables from the inverter into the hybrid's electric motor generator. This is the same thing, only really lower voltage, harmless voltage, and very low current, but it runs fuel pumps. So with the blower motor in the HVAC world, we're not there yet, but at noon today, I did a live broadcast for Delphi on 3-phase fuel pumps, and wouldn't be surprised if they don't start divorcing the module from these blower motors and cooling fan motors from the motor itself, and now we have to do the same diagnostics with 3-phase circuits that are both AC and DC, and that almost sounds like an oxymoron. How can it be both, right?
Right.
But you will see that the current reverses polarity. So if you current ramp, it goes up above 0 amps and it goes below 0 amps. Kind of cool.
Looking at all these different platforms that are available for us to use for delivering training online, which have you tried out and which one do you prefer the best?
I'm sure they're all good. It's just, are they all good for me? I'm a person that doesn't really like to read directions a lot unless I'm forced to. I'm sure this is not two-way, but I'm sure there's amens listening to this right now,
Yeah.
uh, whenever you watch this, okay? But yeah, we're kind of, we as technicians are kind of a hands-on, see by, learn by doing kind of people. And I'm no exception. I can read directions, believe it or not. My wife will say I usually don't. So if it's intuitive, I love it. Zoom is intuitive. Microsoft Teams, I downloaded it, didn't really care for it. It seemed very cryptic. I did actual reviews on all of them. WebEx was a little more user friendly. There's a GoToWebinar. Actually seems to be more robust. I don't know if you know G. Trulia, who runs a shop in Westchester, New York, which is just outside of New York City, and he's the head of a nonprofit group called Technician Service Training, TST. And G's a good guy. Been doing webinars forever. All right. So this guy is no webinar greenhorn. He is a webinar pro for TST. Does a lot of stuff with Motor Age as well. Done some stuff with Delphi and other car companies. And he had a Zoom meeting that I guess overwhelmed with people logging in or whatever, and they had to switch over to GoToWebinar. So even the pros have problems with any of them that are out there. That's the point I wanted to make.
Right. How do you do it on the webcam? Are you holding up parts? Do you have cutaways that you use?
I have started doing that with Zoom, for example. Now, Zoom's got some bad publicity because of some, I don't know, privacy issues or whatever. I think they may have corrected it. Of
I
course,
think they
there's been
fixed
people
all
who've
that.
Zoom bombed,
Right.
where it's like photo bombing, only they've like I don't know. This is probably isolated, but it has a degree of intuitiveness to where you can like go into your camera settings and select a second camera. So I have an Apivo, that's the brand, tiny little USB, I call it a lipstick camera. It's not much bigger than a little thing of lipstick, and it's got a little handle on it. You can twist it like a little tripod kind of thing. I take it with me whenever I do training, because when I'm doing training in a big room, I have a lot of people, and I want them to all to see a part on the circuit board or something. I don't want to pass it around, because you know how that is, Steve. Like 10 minutes later they get to it and it's like you went on to some other topic. It's like, what is this I'm holding? So I thought, wouldn't that be cool to just plug it in and put a light on it right there at the desk where I'm teaching from, whether it's MACS convention or the back of the parts store where I'm normally doing classes. And it gives me a second camera. So I have my projector up with my PowerPoint, and I'll slide it over to one side of the screen, throw that camera up. So with Zoom doing webinars, I've been able to get the camera on like you see now. I've got I don't know, one of those Logitech 1080 high def cameras that kind of clips over the top of your monitor. I don't use those laptop monitors. Oh, by the way, quick rant on that. My pet peeve is when people are doing these webinars and they're looking down at you. They're looking down at their laptop, all right? That's really,
Yep.
I know we get forgiveness for that because what's going on right now, but guys, gals, it's not going to go on forever. But I think some of the stuff we're doing like right now is going to continue past the stay-at-home stuff.
Right.
We're going to see this is going to be a nice addition to live training. Nothing's going to beat the hands-on, the MACS conventions and so forth. But we're going to do more of this and probably less physical classes permanently. Not
Well, now,
exclusively, but adding to it. And we need to be professional at it.
yeah, and just continuing on that, haven't technicians always rejected this kind of training because we're so hands-on?
Yeah. Like, hey, we've tried that before. We didn't like it.
Yeah.
I never will forget when General Motors and then Honda, and they all started moving this direction. They required you to do an online class if you were dealer tech. And then for a few of the online classes, you would supplement by going into a training center and showing proficiency in the hands-on part of it. But most of them, you could just do it online. Because the techs had to do it because they're dealers. And the dealers are required by the manufacturers to do what they say, so they have to make the techs do it. The techs want to keep their jobs. It's not like that at, we'll say, at Connie and Dick's Auto Repair in California. And he probably prefers, like most of it, to get it hands-on. If not that, at least go down the street to the parts store and actually see the trainer and be able to talk to the trainer. And something else, nobody really falls asleep in training classes. I mean, I try not to let them fall asleep, but at your keyboard, tell the truth, Steve. You ever fell asleep at your computer?
It's pretty easy to knock off for a little bit.
It's easy to have because no one's watching you. You know, you've worked all day, you're tired. Now you sit, maybe you had a meal before that webinar, and you sit and it's like, you know, oh, wake up. Oh, the webinar's over. There's nothing like the live part of it. So we prefer that, and we're hands-on learners, like, you know, like I said a minute ago, and now we're going to try to force independence to do something we don't want to. That's not going to happen. Yeah. So I think if we make it interesting, like I said, some of the lighting, some of the better sound, maybe a virtual background like we have here, the second camera, which Zoom lets you click into pretty easily, where you can do a hands-on. I mean, that's a whole lot better than, than I don't have a car part, but then holding it up to the webcam. I mean, that will work in a pinch. I've done that, but whole lot better to have that second camera.
With all of the online training classes that you do, what do you find that technicians like more? Is it attending a live session or watching the recorded webinar later?
The live session is more effective of getting people to watch it. I want you to think about this. If you have to pay to go to a live class, you're going to show up or you miss it. I mean, you can't get it back later. If you bought a book or a DVD or a pre-recorded webinar, you can watch that anytime, which on the surface, it sounds like convenient, right? But what's the chances of you really disciplining yourself to do it? If I have to be across town for a live training class to sit in a seat, or I'm going to lose my money, or if I have to sit at my desk at home right now anyways, and watch another instructor teach me something, because it's going to be gone if I don't hit that live webinar, I'm going to sit in my seat and I'm going to watch it. But if it's on the shelf or on the web, I can look at it later. I can't tell you how many things I got to look at right now I'd never get around to.
Right. It's a lot easier to put it off if it's a recorded class.
Yeah, it's like exercise,
Right. Well, then, with these training classes, do you propose that it's appropriate now during a national emergency to advertise these spring training classes?
I think so. Now, this was interesting. I sat in a WorldPack class. They've been doing a great job getting on a WorldPack every night, I think, actually. It's odd time because they're West Coast folks. They specialize in import car parts, one of Delphi's customers. And I did one for them, and I sat in on Mark Warren's class here a while back, and Monday night, this week, I sat in on a fellow's class that did management training. It was not just management training. Let me tell you, he encouraged me, Steve, and I needed it. Really good, motivational, encouraging kind of guy. And he made this point, and it was well taken, talking about, I asked the question in the class, actually, would you advertise the normal spring AC tune-up special kind of thing? Check your refrigerant level, check the belts, those kind of things, hoses. And he said he'd probably stay away from that.
Really?
Because, and I'll use this phrase here, you want people, your customers, to know that you're praying for them, P-R-A-Y-I-N-G, not preying on them, P-R-E-Y-I-N-G, like a praying mantis or like a lion jumping on their prey. There's a big difference, the same words, but spelled differently, and a big difference in meaning. So if you advertise something that almost seems self-gratifying, like, hey, we're going to get your money from your stimulus check to make sure your AC is cold, he suggested making sure we presented it like this: is your vehicle dependable in a time of emergency? We can check that battery. We can check the in-car cabin filter. Make sure it's
Right.
going into to recirc, so that you're getting full use of filterization. You don't want to be breathing any crap. I mean, obviously that goes right along with this whole thing is viral through the lungs and the nose, the mouth, breathing. So he kind of focused on that, and that makes sense. People want to have the reassurance: my car is reliable, my car's safe, it's healthy. On that note, I wouldn't mind touching the base on working on filthy cars.
Yeah, well, earlier this week, MACS sent a letter down to CDC and EPA asking them for guidance on how to properly clean motor vehicles, automobiles, heavy trucks, construction equipment to get rid of the virus. What do you do? Because there's a lot of guidance out there about products, certain chemicals that are effective cleaning door handles and kitchen countertops, but if you think about it, cars are pretty dirty.
They are.
So what do you do to clean that? And when we first started talking about it, I thought when a technician gets into a car, they're not just getting into someone's daily driver. They're really getting into their personal space.
You kind of go from, I'll use an analogy, you're the housekeeping person in a hotel,
Right.
to being the housekeeping person in a contagious disease department of a hospital.
Right.
As technicians. I mean, because yeah, we've always had to kind of tidy up and make sure that we didn't get cooties or whatever, germs and diseases, a normal type that, hopefully your immune system's fine with dirty, nasty cars that come in. Now, they may not even look bad, but the person could have had that virus. So that's why one of the things I kind of said, hats off to all you folks that are watching that work on cars now, because this is a hazardous pay kind of thing. What the fellow that I can't think of his name, Rick White, that was his name.
Yeah.
I had to say I couldn't think of it, then I thought of the name. But he's a management guy, 180 Biz, I think the name of his company. Anyways, he did a really good job the other night doing a World Pack class, and he suggested for your cleanliness, for your safety, and the customer's peace of mind, wrapping the steering wheel, little covers that go over the steering wheels, the mats on the floor, the paper mats you put on the floors, even the ones on the seats. But before you do that, wipe things down. So, get the Lysol on your shop towel, wipe the dash, things, the steering wheel, the gear shift lever, things you're going to be touching. I was very, very impressed with a local tire store. I had a tire go low in my car, right in the heart of this. It was 3 weeks ago. I mean, nobody even thought about getting out of their house. It was everybody in the whole country, I think, was stay-at-home order. And I had tire go flat. We needed to be able to get around, get groceries. So I bring it into the local tire place, one of those chain places, and they meet me outside, and they talk, 6 feet from the open car window. And they said, I want you, when it's your turn, to bring the car into the bay, that's always a taboo, right?
Right. Customers usually aren't
I
allowed
drove
in the bay.
That's normal for me to drive a car in the bay, I'm a tech, but not the normal customer. But they guided me in, and they say, you take the key out and take it with you. They didn't want to touch the key. They were just going to set the rack or a jack, whatever, and get it in the air, get the tire off, fix the tire. Figuring the tire doesn't have the coronavirus, but that key could.
Right.
So the less they had to touch of the car, the better. But I was so impressed because they took care of me, and they stayed safe, and they made me feel safe, and I got my tire fixed.
Right.
So I was able to, continue to the doctor and the grocery and those things like that.
Well, let me ask you a question. This is something I've always wondered, because I've been reading your MSRs for years now. And I kind of have an idea of the different cars and vehicles that you write about. But I want to know, what does Dave Hobbs drive?
I drive a 2013 Malibu hybrid.
Really?
I call it the undercover hybrid, because nothing on the car, either on the bumper, the fenders, under the hood, says the word hybrid. It doesn't even say e-assist, which is what it is. It doesn't say Bass Plus, which also technically what it is, belt alternator starter. It just says Eco, Malibu Eco. And there was a year or two of cruise Ecos that were not hybrids. They had a small engine. They had them maybe an inch lower to the ground, bare aerodynamic panels underneath it. And they took the tire jack and the spare tire out. That really bit when I sliced the sidewall on that Malibu of mine. I had to go get a jack somewhere and a tire iron and then find a place to get a new tire. But
Wow.
yeah, mine has been lightened up a bit, and it's got a 130-volt belt alternator starter, water cooled, 3 big orange cables going to it, inverter, converter, battery pack in the back. It's a small lithium ion pack. It doesn't move the car. It's basically a very expensive stop start.
Really?
Not 12 volt like Peter Orlando talked about here at your conference a while back, but 130 volt stop start. So you don't hear it start. Unlike the 12 volt ones where you hear the gear clash of a gear reduction 12 volt starter, it just uses that motor generator on the belt to spin at about 600 RPMs. And I get high 30s, but you can get high 30s out of any car these days.
Yeah, but for a Malibu, that's pretty good.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
It's got almost 200,000. I didn't have to put front brakes on, Steve, until 180.
Really?
Yeah, because it does regen just like the big boys.
Right.
So I call my undercover hybrid because it's, you raise the hood, it's a hybrid. You raise the trunk lid up, you go, hey, where'd the trunk go? I don't have too much trunk space here. That lithium ion pack and the power electronics take up some space. But I've got that, and I've got a Dodge Caravan, and I got an old Sebring convertible I just don't want to part ways with. It's kind of sinking into my driveway almost by now, but I get it out every now and then, put the top down. So yeah, I'm a Chrysler and GM guy. Currently don't own any Fords or any imports, but I rent when I drive. So when you see an MSR and you see something on a Toyota, well, Dave probably rented that for a trip.
I do that too.
Yeah.
We use the material that's given to us.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's cool. I have a 2006 Malibu, so mine's a little, a little older.
Yeah.
But so you're from Kokomo, and Kokomo has been in the news a lot lately. Are they building the respiratory machines in Kokomo?
Yes.
Is that what they're doing?
Yes. In fact, the building where they're doing it, I went to work there every day for years.
Really?
When I was on the hotline and doing internal training for our engineering groups, that was the building I was in.
Wow.
That's General Motors building now. They took part of that campus back over years ago when we split with GM and all the business stuff that happened in the last 20 years. And so technically it's General Motors, and across the street is the current Delphi engineering facilities, Delphi Technologies now, along with Aptiv, which is, Delphi split into 2 companies, Aptiv being the one that's focused on autonomous cars and electronics, and Delphi Technologies focused on powertrain, gas, diesel, and electrification, and some steering, suspension, and other things for the aftermarket. But for the OE, it's mainly getting you moving down the road, and Aptiv is getting you steered by yourself down the road. So Aptiv and Delphi Technologies are on the south side of a major road, and that building you may have seen in those news clips is on the north side of the road, and that's the old ERC building, Engineering Resource Center. And I worked on that 3rd floor, and that 3rd floor now is a factory making ventilators, saving lives. My hometown colleagues are in there, 1,000 of them. And Steve, we had a drive-in church service. It was the first time we tried it. We were doing the FaceTime or whatever for church. My brother-in-law is a senior pastor, and I want to make a little comment about that because you really got to keep the faith up, especially now. So I'm not trying to preach to anybody, but if you have faith, this is a real good time to strengthen it. It's going to be like exercise. You really got to have it in times like this. So our church people kind of rallied around. It's like, okay, we're willing to go and park in the parking lot 6 feet apart, keep our windows just cracked, and pastor had come out. It's cold, but he came out and had a speaker beside the awning of the church and an amplifier, and all that. We had somebody lead singing. Poor gal, Pam, been friends with her for years, used to work with youth group, her and her wife, my wife and her and I. And she's our worship leader, has cancer. It came back, and she's getting chemo this week, actually. But she was smiling and singing as happy as can be. The pastor, my brother-in-law, had fell out of an attic Saturday night, broke his foot and ankle.
Wow.
And came in 12 hours later, no cast or anything, because he couldn't even get in to get that done, and preached Sunday morning service using an office chair to kind of balance his leg on. His knee.
Really?
Anyways, this is really bringing some good stuff out. That's the point I'm making. This is not all bad times. It's good times. But on Easter Sunday, a couple Sundays ago, whenever it was, I'm leaving the drive-in church service, and I'm driving down that road where my old office was, where they're building the ventilators now. On Easter Sunday, Steve, they were working on the
Wow.
ventilators. It's 7 days a week, holidays included. These are motivated people trying to make lives survive the coronavirus with ventilators. I was really amazed and impressed with my fellow Kokomoans.
Right. Well, so what's going on in Indiana right now? I mean, we're hearing a lot on the news about New York, New Jersey, of course, Washington State,
Yeah, the
Louisiana,
East, you
but
guys are really having a rough time.
what about the good old heart of America?
It's all a trickle down thing. Indianapolis, being a larger city, is going to have a higher concentration of viruses, so there's a little more restrictions there. The governor is a decent guy. He's trying his best to try to walk a fine line. All the governors are. The president, everybody. I mean, this is a bad time to be political. You can hate him later. Pray for him now. Who want to be? I mean, you can't, Steve. Could they pay you enough to make that decision?
Oh no! Oh no!
I don't want to do it. You don't want to do it. So if you don't want to do it, just pray for the poor person's having to do it right now. And you can hate them later if you want to. All right, and make bad Facebook memes about your favorite or least favorite political party. But for right now, we just support them best we can and let them know when we think they're screwing up too, though, because they've done that in Lansing, Michigan. They let the lady governor know that they have had enough, and they did that a little bit in Indianapolis with some drive-around protests. But Indianapolis is a little rougher, and then Kokomo was doing very good until a meat packaging plant about a half hour outside of Kokomo, just like last week, had a rash where several hundred people got the virus, and about 100 of them live in Kokomo.
Wow.
So our town kind of ramped up a little bit, but it's sporadic. I think they're going to, in a few days, I know the state of Florida has let their stay-at-home order elapse, and they're opening up some businesses. The state of Georgia, as you well know, is trying to move more towards normalcy quicker. Everybody's a little different. So in Pennsylvania, are you still a stay-at-home, or are you a little bit of limbo, or what are you doing?
I know our governor extended the stay-at-home order until May 8th. But I also heard that certain parts of the state would be reopened in some fashion. You know, a lot of the outlying northern counties, parts of central Pennsylvania are rather rural. So I think, like some other states, they're looking at opening some businesses, some activities in that part. But where we are here in Montgomery County, our county was the first to experience widespread COVID-19.
Oh, wow.
So we were one of the first counties to close down. We were one of the first businesses to be shut down. So we think that since we were the first to be turned off, we're probably going to be one of the last to be turned back on. And then, you know, of course, also Philadelphia, Bucks, Chester, Delaware, some of the other Philadelphia area counties. So,
you know, the trickle down in Kokomo, Indiana is until this meat packaging plant incident happened, we were like looking really good. Very few cases, like one death. Actually, my wife knew the wife of the fellow that passed away. And he was very, very profoundly ill before the COVID-19. So it was one of those things where, yeah, we would, you know, love to see the gentleman, you know, beat whatever was ticking away at him, but it was bound to happen, and that just made things go faster, which seems to be in most cases what happens. But we had a pretty low rate, and so our Chrysler plants, we have Delphi Technologies and Aptiv, but we also have Chrysler. There's actually like 3 or 4 assembly plants making probably the majority of transmissions that go into a Jeep, Dodge, Chrysler, or Fiat. And were they ready to go back to work May 1st? And then the governor of Michigan, our neighboring state, says we're not ready to go back to work. And so the plants that actually make the vehicles, and I think the same may be in Belvidere, which is outside of Chicago, Illinois, and also Toledo, where they have a Jeep plant there. So if those states aren't, in Michigan, Detroit, obviously Motor City, aren't ready to build vehicles, where are you going to put the transmissions that you would build in Kokomo?
Right.
No vehicle to put them into. So they're not going to stack them up. So
yeah, that's really their only option, is just to stack them up on the shelf.
Just a small church pastor, which doesn't pay anything. He works at Chrysler. Of course, now he's off with the foot injury, but he couldn't go back to work if he wanted to because there's no cars to put those transmissions into.
Right. Right. Let me ask you this real quick, just going off on a different subject, but I'm curious, what's going on with Aptiv right now? What's going on with driverless vehicles?
It's pretty impressive. I have friends that work there. I've known them forever, as I've been at Delphi 31 years. So when we kind of parted ways, whenever it was, 20, I don't know, 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, they started getting really invested into, I think it's Uber in
Hmm.
Las Vegas. I was out there for Apex convention, Apex SEMA show every year, and I drove like past the airport, right off of the 215 expressway. You've been to Vegas; we had the MACS conventions there. There's a huge building now that says Aptiv. I knew they had engineering facility. I didn't realize it was that big. And if you maybe a third or quarter, 25% chance, if you order up an Uber car in Las Vegas, you're going to get a BMW. I think it's a 5 Series. It's white. The fleet of them, 100 of them, or whatever. The bottom on the rocker panel, I think it's an orange print. It says Aptiv. On the back, it says driverless or automated car, self-driving car. It says self-driving car. There's a driver. There's an Uber driver. They don't do hardly any driving. They sit. They talk to the passengers, their fares, and their job is to be there for an emergency in case they need to slam on the brakes if the system has a weak point. But then in the end of their shift, they take the Beamer self-driving car into that Aptiv engineering garage, and they pull out a hard drive and get a fresh hard drive, and that, I don't know how many terabytes downloaded every night. And engineers study that, and they go, that was a close call. How can we make it better? By watching the cameras from the previous activity of the previous day's run.
Wow. Wow, that's really cool.
It's happening now.
Yeah. What do you think it's going to take to get shops back working again, making money again, customers coming back out again?
Ooh, let me see. Let me get that crystal ball out here.
Yes. Where is your crystal ball, Dave?
Wow. Everything is so connected. It's almost like an ecosystem. You know, sometimes you get mad because they quit building an interstate or something because they found some rare bird, bug, whatever, fish. California, I think it was a rare fish or something that might be extinct if they continue with irrigation. And a big fight over about that. But, you know, the fish is eaten by something else, which is eaten by something else. It's the same way with the economy. The auto parts makers are really taking it hard. The auto parts retailers, that's our customers, Delphi's customers, they're taking it hard. They're not very busy. The shops I hear are hit and miss. What are you hearing?
About the same. I've heard
Yeah.
some shops and kind of depends on their location. I know
Yeah.
one shop in downtown Cleveland, their business is down 90%.
Yes.
I know another guy that's out in a sort of rural part of Pennsylvania. He said it's a little bit slow, but he's still busy every day. And actually, he's thankful he has a lot of bigger jobs that are keeping him busy. Although I am kind of hearing across the board a lot of your, smaller minor repairs, your oil changes, tire repairs, inspection things. A lot of that has slowed down because so many commuters are not driving to work anymore.
Yeah, I think, the new car market is taking a real hit. Some economists I see, like the talking head, news shows it's pent up demand and so forth. I think there's also, in addition to that, obviously we a lot of us had maybe have kept our jobs. I've kept my job. You've kept yours. That's why we're talking together. And we got stimulus checks. I got mine. You probably got yours. So those us folks might then say, let's get this work done on the house or this work done on our car, whatever. Some things that, if you think about it, like in a lot of places, you can't go to the local department store and buy some new clothes, but the auto repair shop is open.
Right.
And you may have been putting off some repairs. I need to put a wheel bearing on my Malibu now. The light's been on all winter. ABS light. It's not a bad bearing. It's a bad encoder wheel in the back of the bearing. I got to replace the bearing. So it's like, okay, it's $100, from my parts store. They could use the business, and I could use the exercise with the wrench in hands to put a hub bearing on. And so some of those jobs I think will be done, but a lot of discretionary things, people are, I think, just like during a recession, they're wondering, am I going to keep my job? We all are wondering that, right? Am I going to keep my job? How long is this going to be? I can work from home, or my company will keep employing me with the low volume we have. Should I depart with that money or that credit I have available to get car repair? And so I think we'll have more necessity work and more security, make you feel safer work. And I think that's why Rick White touched on that in his webinar I watched, where it's like, hey, the normal AC spring season stuff, make it is your car safe and healthy, reliable and healthy type of a service. And those shops that do that I would guess, are going to be thriving as opposed to surviving.
But do you see a light at the end of the tunnel?
I do. I don't think I understand some folks. It's getting to, again, the politics. And I'm not sure this deserves to be called politics. It's like some people, I don't want to call them fraidy cats. I just want to say they're more concerned. A young gentleman that used to be friends with my daughter, and we're friends on Facebook. He came to my church's youth group when my wife and I were youth leaders. Nice young kid. He's a grown-up man now. And he was kind of ranting on social media about, well, if the governor lets us go back to work and, yada, yada, then it's going to undo everything. And it's going to be, the pandemic with lots of deaths all over again. We don't really know. I think maybe years from now, we may look back upon this and go, wow, we was wrong about that as we were about the plague in the dark ages, about how it spread. Remember, they thought it was people to people. What was it, rats?
Yeah.
It was something else. I remember learning about it in history and health class. But I think that's true with a lot of science. Like, Steve, how much have we learned in our generation working on cars? Like, gee, we thought this is how it worked. We found out there's easier ways to diagnose and maybe old ways to get resurrected, new forms, with new tools and old tools. And I mean, we're just a constant state of learning. That's science. Whether it's auto repair or health, there are no absolutes sometimes. So we have to take the risk. We got to get out. And there's the camp that wants to stay in, and there's the camp that wants to get out. They're the ones protesting, driving around the state house. So as repair shop owners and technicians, we can have our own opinions, but when it comes into work, you got to feel the customer out. Do they need reassurance that they're going to be healthy? Their car is going to be okay. They're not going to get sick because you touched their car.
Right.
And so wearing a mask, I had a mention in our email back and forth. I'll give a plug out to Christian Brothers. It's a really good high-end chain of repair shops, and they're called Christian Brothers. That's because the last name of the family. It's a faith-based organization, and they make sure that their waiting rooms are spotless, that they're very nice, it's very comfortable, secure settings. And one of the guys at a local Christian Brothers Automotive in Indianapolis, not far from me, put a little YouTube blip on how his customers could expect their experience to be during this pandemic. You're welcome to come inside. You're welcome to drop your key off. We'll wear the mask. I mean, basically said, these are the things we're doing to keep ourselves safe, to keep you safe, and to make you feel comfortable. And that's going to be a key. I've done my share, not as much as I do tech training, but I do some shop management, service advisor courses. I really enjoy it because it's the people side of things. You know that, Steve, you're a people person. And people really are looking for a positive experience. I know a lot of folks make you think they want it done yesterday and for free. So you feel like maybe I should open up a shop. It's called Half Price Auto Repair, or something like that. It's not really what people want. And there are a few that want that, but you don't want them as customers. Let somebody else have them. You take the customers that want it done right, on time, by someone's trustworthy, and gives a good experience. Today, that good experience includes secure feeling of cleanliness and health.
Right.
So I'll finish.
And all at a fair price.
Yeah, fair price. Yes, at what you quoted. But
right.
We know a lot. I mean, you folks that are watching, some of you, a lot of you instructors, some of you are service advisors or your shop owners, technicians, and you interface with the customer. We know a lot. I mean, this is what the MACS service report, MACS AC action, the MACS convention, it's all about learning more. that President Roosevelt, not Franklin Delano, but Teddy Roosevelt, you know, the dude that said, walk soft and carry a big stick, that charged up San Juan Hill, you know, in a hailfire of bullets. That man's man guy, that Teddy Roosevelt, he also said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So that's more important now than ever. I know you'll agree with that, Steve.
Yep.
Making sure our customers and our team, Rick White mentioned that in that webinar. It was really, really wonderfully put. He said, we always used to say the customers first. Well, right now we need to say that your teams first. The people who you work with and you work for or work under you, they need to all know that we're in this together, and we're going to take care of each other. You can't take care of your customers if you're fighting or you're worrying or you're stressing in your own shop within your own team. So that's a high priority. I don't know what you're doing at MACS. Hopefully you guys are having Zooms together and you're keeping the team thumbs up.
Yeah, we actually, our office closed a little over a month ago. To keep the team together, we have weekly meetings on GoToMeeting where we get together on Tuesday mornings. We spend an hour talking about what's been going on, what's coming up, questions that we've had from our customers, and what we're doing to continue to serve our members.
Yeah, that's good. And, you know, last wise words, not Teddy Roosevelt, but my dad, who ran a successful shop for 50 years. It was pretty simple. He just said, keep busy, keep your mind off it. It used to sometimes get under my skin, Steve. It's like sometimes I think you need to scream or yell or cry or you know, laugh or shout. And I think that's still true. There's a time for everything. But right now, I think watching the news, the 24-hour news cycle, my wife said, you got to quit. And I go, you're right. I'm getting nervous. I'm getting, feelings I've never felt. It's just crazy. Is this going to be over? Yada, yada. And the news is not helping our moods. So keep the news minimal and stay busy at your passion. Hopefully your passion is what you're doing, what you're listening to right now, something about auto repair. Hopefully you came into this business because you love cars or love people or both. I had a friend, Steve, he was burnt out. He was a GM field engineer, great engineer, great car guy that fixed the cars to keep them from getting bought back under lemon laws. The dealers would give up. That was his job, but he got burned out at it. He confessed to me one day. He says, Davey, I hate to tell you this, but I've grown to hate cars and the people who drive them. So hopefully you're not in that boat. And if you're getting to that point, then I know you can't go to a car show or a race right now, but go out and work on your personal pet project. Go to the internet and look at some really cool custom car pictures or videos, the SEMA highlights from last year, whatever. Get yourself motivated and build up and continue all the distance learning you can. You're going to need it when you get busy again to be better and faster, to make up for lost time and lost profits. But my dad had it right. Stay busy, because if you're not busy, you're going to dwell on the negative.
Exactly. Well, that's about all the time we have for right now. Dave, I'd like to thank you for hanging out with me today on this live chat and for all that you do for our industry and our MACS member shops.
Thank you. It was an honor, Steve. Take care. Stay safe.
I'm sure that each MACS member will appreciate your insights and information, and hopefully it can help them with their business. Well, that wraps it up for this MACS live chat. I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. If you'd like more information about Delphi Technologies, including product and technology materials, you can learn more on their website at www.delphi.com. And of course, we'd like to thank you for your continued membership with MACS. To find out all that your association has to offer, including our affinity programs designed to save your shop money, please visit our website at www.maxw.org. Thanks again for joining us. My name is Steve Schaeber, and we'll see you next time.